Hey guys, today it is Sunday, February 16th, 2020, and since it is Sunday, that means that it is once again time for us to round up. So, with that folks, welcome to yet another episode of Rockzilla's Weekly Roundup. So, basically, if you are new to these videos, the way that the weekly roundups work is that they are essentially podcast style videos, which means that there is literally nothing to see in the videos. It's only me talking. So all you will see for the entire duration of this video today is a black screen. So in the future, unless I either A, start a video out with something to literally see that isn't a black screen, or B, if I tell you in advance that there will be some type of visual elements later on in the video, these are going to essentially be podcasts for the vast majority of the time. And truth is, I may never bother doing any visuals in these at all. But I'm sure that at some point I probably will include a visual or two now and then, but so far, for at least in the short term, I want to wait until I've had multiple podcasts before I ever start changing it up a little bit. So if you are new to the channel, or in this case, new to the podcasts or the weekly roundups, these are essentially podcasts. So that means that also, if you're doing anything such as, I don't know, playing a computer game or putting your laundry away, cleaning your room, or even on a treadmill, just random examples like that, essentially what I'm saying is that you can just listen to this video on the side while you're doing something else. So, because this is a podcast, essentially. Because all you will see in this video and most of the weekly roundup videos from here on in, like the past 2 weeks as well, will be nothing but black screens and just me talking, with the exception of last week where I did have Nick from Windy City Hockey join me as a special guest last week. So, anyways, you guys, since these weekly roundup podcasts are so new to the point where this is only the third weekly roundup I've ever done, for probably at least the next 2 weeks or so, I'll spend a bit of time at the beginning of each week's weekly roundup podcast explaining that these are podcast style videos. And then over time, I will probably keep it very brief and just state at the beginning that that this is a podcast style video. We'll see, but I certainly, after the next 2 to 3 weeks or so, I probably won't be spending as much time explaining it once it's an established program on the channel. But anyways, you guys, before I get into what I want to discuss this week, which, by the way, what I do in these podcasts is I basically just talk about things to do with uniforms, logos, and jerseys that I see on a week-to-week basis that I want to discuss. Plus, I also do discuss other things besides that as well. So, before I get started on what I want to talk about this week, I want to start by quickly acknowledging the fact that my last video on this channel was literally my last weekly roundup podcast where I had Nick from Windy City Hockey join me. Now, truth is, this past week was rather busy at my work. It was a lot busier than usual. And on top of that, truth is, I've had some other stuff go on outside of the channel that I needed to take care of this week, and I'm glad that I did. As for a return to me doing more consistent videos this week, I'm hoping to do that, but I'm not going to guarantee anything because truth is, I do think this week could be a bit of a busy week for me as well. But anyways, Now, what I'm going to do is, to start this all off, I'm going to start by getting into the most significant topic of the week as far as I'm concerned, and that has to do with the fact that Jay Bouwmeester of the St. Louis Blues suffered a cardiac episode during the first period of a game against the Anaheim Ducks this past Tuesday. So, sadly, what ended up happening was that Jay Bouwmeester finished a shift, then he went and sat on the bench like players usually do, and sadly he collapsed. So the good news is that he is okay and he is in hospital, but the bad news is that he suffered such a severe cardiac episode that a defibrillator actually had to be used on him. So I gotta be honest, ever since I saw the clip of him collapsing and fainting on the bench last Tuesday, I have not been able to get that image out of my head. That was a really, really scary thing to see. I did not see the game itself, but I did see a clip of him collapsing on the bench, and I must say, I have not been able to get that image of him collapsing out of my head since. That was a very, very, very scary incident, and thankfully Jay Bouwmeester is in the best place possible. He is now in a hospital where cardiologists and doctors and nurses as well can monitor him, and hopefully Jay Bouwmeester will not only make a full recovery, but I'm also holding out hope that he can return to being an NHL player again for the St. Louis Blues. So, the good thing out of all of this is that at least Jay Bouwmeester is okay. But I must say, anything to do with your heart in terms of medical emergencies is very scary stuff. And at this point, I am just glad to know that Jay is okay. Because I must say, that was really, really scary. And truth is, this is the second time in the past 6 or 7 years that a National Hockey player, or National Hockey League player rather, has suffered a cardiac episode during the first period of a game. In fact, I believe it was either 2013 or 2014, and Rich Peverley of the Dallas Stars at the time was on the bench, and he also suffered a cardiac episode where he collapsed on the Stars bench during a game about 6 or 7 years ago now. And sadly, not only did he suffer a cardiac episode, but he actually was forced to end his playing career as a result of his health. And the good news is that Rich Peverley is okay, and he's still alive today, thankfully. But the bad news is that his health was in such a bad state that he was forced to retire from the National Hockey League and end his playing career. And that's always a very, very sad thing. But since he had to retire after his cardiac episode during a game, I hate to be the bearer of potential bad news, but I'm going to be honest, I have a feeling that we could see Jay Bouwmeester be forced to retire as a result of his cardiovascular health. And that's always a very extremely unfortunate situation. I hope that he can make a full recovery and be an NHL player again, but it kills me to say this, but to be honest, I would not be surprised if Jay Bouwmeester is going to have to retire like Rich Peverley did years ago. And I must say, that sucks. It really, really sucks. And at this point, even if he has to retire, though, at the end of the day, all that matters, in my opinion, is that Jay Bouwmeester is okay. He's alert, and now he's in hospital having a whole barrage of tests done, I'm sure. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, Jay Bomeister is in the best place he could be in right now, and that's in a hospital under the care of doctors, nurses, and cardiologists. And hopefully he's going to make a full recovery. And better yet, hopefully he'll be able to play in the National Hockey League again. But with Rich Peverley being forced to retire as a result of his health, for concerns of his to do with his health, considering that he also suffered a cardiac episode during a game, I would not be surprised if sadly Jay Bomeister's probably going to have to call it quits as well. And I don't like saying this, you guys, but I'm going to be honest. I'd rather see a player retire than have the worst thing possible happen and have their lives end tragically far too soon as a result of their health. And you know what? At the end of the day, you guys, in my opinion, your health comes first. And if a player's heart is not healthy enough for them to be a professional player anymore, I'd rather see them retire and get to enjoy many, many more years of life, hopefully, than have something happen to them and have them pass away far too soon. You know, that's a really sad situation, but, you know, at least as far as I know, Rich Peverley is still alive and well today, and hopefully Jay Bomeister will be out of hospital soon. In fact, I also believe Craig Cunningham, I know he was a player for the Vancouver Giants for a while. I believe what ended up happening, and if I'm talking about the wrong player, I really do apologize, and please feel free to correct me, but I believe it was Craig Cunningham. He suffered a cardiac episode during a game. Holy crap, that is scary stuff. And I want to say something else too. I mean, obviously the health of these men is most important, and thankfully all three of them are okay and doing well, and hopefully Jay Bomeister will be able to make a full recovery as well. But there is something that I do want to add on top of obviously everybody having major concerns and worries about Jay's health, which is obviously most paramount, and most important. But there is one more thing that I do want to mention because I feel it is also so important to start discussing. And I'm hoping that now that this horrible incident has happened to Jay Bomeister, I'm hoping that now society, especially medical researchers and cardiologists, will start looking at these cardiac episodes a little bit more thoroughly. And what I mean by that is that I hope that researchers and cardiologists alike will spend more time now, hopefully figuring out why more of these episodes seem to be happening. Now, in the past, the chances of a young professional athlete having a cardiac episode were extremely rare to non-existent. But this is now the second situation in the past 6 to 7 years where a National Hockey League player has suffered cardiac arrest on the bench during a game. And I don't know about you viewers out there, and I also don't know if it's just because of how instantly available any news from anywhere and everywhere is nowadays, with how available and how easily accessible all types of news are. But I've been finding that from what I've been gathering and what I've been seeing on social media and on news channels, that there seems to be more athletes than before, young athletes suffering cardiac arrest and cardiac episodes. In fact, over the past few years, I remember hearing about a teenage basketball player playing a game for his high school, and he died from, I believe, heart failure. And even though these events are still very, very rare, it seems like they are happening more often than before. And I'm hoping that now researchers and cardiologists alike will spend more time focusing on hopefully figuring out why this seems to be happening more often now than before. I mean, could it be from a result of far too much rigorous physical activity? Could it be overstressing the heart of these athletes? I mean, could it be lifestyle choices, especially now with modern day fitness regimens that it seems that almost all professional athletes have to go through nowadays? Because obviously, in the 21st century, now in 2020, professional athletes do more rigorous fitness testing and fitness regimens than ever before. And that is true. But, I mean, is it now up to a point where these regimens are so rigorous that it's overstressing athletes' hearts? I mean, could that be it? I mean, obviously, I'm not a doctor. But could that be it? Could it be lack of sleep and rigorous activity and not giving the heart enough time to rest? Could it be modern day lifestyle choices? Could it be modern day stresses on the heart on top of modern day rigorous physical activity on a day-to-day basis for these athletes? I mean, sorry to be throwing out a zillion different scenarios here, but you know, folks, when I hear about this stuff, I really do hope that they can start figuring out why these episodes seem to be happening more nowadays than before. And on top of that, I hope that cardiologists and medical examiners alike and doctors can hopefully pinpoint potential cardiac problems in athletes before they happen. Because hopefully we will never have to see something like this happen again. Hopefully. Because as I said earlier, I mean, the fact that this happened and I saw it, I haven't been able to get it out of my mind since. That was so scary to watch, and let me tell you, am I ever hoping that Jay Bouwmeester can make a full recovery? I mean, I've heard that he's doing fine now and he's going through a whole slew of tests, and rightfully so. But I'm just hoping that when that man is able to finally get the hell out of that hospital that he's staying in, that he's going to be able to return and live a normal life again. I mean, that is a scary incident, but obviously our thoughts are with him. And, you know, obviously his state of health is most important right now, and thankfully he's in the best place possible, and he's alert, and he's alive, and that's most important. But I'm also hoping that medical examiners and researchers and cardiologists and whoever researches this type of stuff, I'm hoping that now they will start to be more thorough with their research and start figuring out why this seems to be happening more. Because I know everybody's obviously most worried about Jay Bouwmeester's state of health, and rightfully so. But I also think it's time for us to start asking why this seems to be happening more, because I don't know about you viewers out there, but this to me is very, very, very important that we start figuring out how we can prevent these events from happening in the first place. And another thing that I find extremely troubling too, and sorry to be going on for so long about this, but the other thing I find extremely concerning too is how young these athletes are. Jay Bouwmeester's not even 40 years of age. And when you look at a professional athlete, they're supposed to be the definition of what good or excellent physical health looks like. They're supposed to be, well, they're traditionally the definition of what good lifestyle habits look like and good fitness. Usually professional athletes are very healthy and are in excellent peak physical condition. So when they're having cardiovascular issues, in my opinion, that is something that is so damn scary, and I just hope that not only that Jay Bouwmeester is going to be okay, but that we can also hopefully find a way to prevent this from happening to more young athletes, whether they're men or women. Because obviously we've heard more about this happening to men, but regardless of who it is, this to me is very serious, and I just hope that they can figure out what is triggering these cardiac events in these young athletes such as Jay Bouwmeester. I'm sorry, guys, for going on about it so long, but I really wanted to talk about that today because to me that is so damn important. And, you know, at the end of the day, the fact that he's okay is obviously most important. But now, folks, let's move on to the next thing that I want to discuss, and it's the Sedin twins in Vancouver finally having their jersey numbers retired to the rafters of Rogers Arena in Vancouver. So, with Daniel and Henrik Sedin having their numbers 22 and 33 retired, to me, it was a well-deserved honor for them. In my opinion, they were the greatest twin duo in NHL history for sure. And not only that, but I've watched the Sedin twins my entire life, and they were a major highlight of my hockey watching childhood. All of my childhood was spent watching the Sedins trying to win the Stanley Cup as a pair of Vancouver Canucks players. My entire life has been about watching the Sedin twins becoming superstar players in the National Hockey League, trying to win a Stanley Cup for the Vancouver Canucks. And in fact, they got all the way to Game 7 of the 2011 Stanley Cup Finals against the Boston Bruins, where sadly they lost to the Bruins. But you know what? They both did such an incredible job, both on the ice and off the ice. And another thing too, when Gary Bettman and Bill Daly are there to witness your numbers being retired into the rafters of your arena that you've played in your entire career, you know that they've done something right. And I thought that was a very well-deserved honor. Even the banners that they made for the Sedins look great. And I must say, that, in my opinion, was a very, very more than deserved recognition and honor for them, because they have been so good both on the ice and even off the ice with their charitable work. And to see them get their numbers retired and see them get the recognition they deserved, that was so nice to watch this past week. Now, speaking of the Canucks, I noticed that they finally changed the banners for the retired players in Canucks history to match the uniform and jersey color eras that each player had played in. For example, Stan Smeel has a banner based off of the Flying V uniforms. Trevor Linden and Pavel Bure now have banners based off of their early to mid 1990s Canucks uniform colors. And Marcus Naslund has his banner based off of the Canucks 2000s uniforms, the navy blue era ones. So that to me was a really nice move by the Vancouver Canucks organization as well. The only thing I did not care for about those new banners is the fact that all of them have the agency font. I'm sorry, folks, but I still believe that the agency font should have been gone alongside the word mark over the Orca logo that is now gone off of their jerseys as of this season. I think that when they took that off of their jerseys for this season, they should have also taken the agency font and switched their uniforms back to a classic block font. And another thing too, I even feel that the Canucks should have even just switched to navy blue and left their uniforms the same, had the stick and rink shoulder patch in blue on their away jersey like it was before, and it should have been left alone, but switch out the royal for navy blue, because the Orca logo itself is heavy on navy blue, and it looks out of place, especially on their home jersey, where if it was a navy blue home jersey instead, it would suit the uniform much better, and it would look a lot better too. Even though I am ready for the Canucks to get rid of the Orca anytime now, they should have done it years ago. And I'm hoping that this popularity that their skate throwbacks have received this year leads to the Canucks eventually switching back to it. And you know what? Would I ever love to see the Orca finally get canned and retired and have the Canucks stop using the Orca as their logo. But I thought I'd mention that too. But as I say that though, the agency font, ironically in my opinion, looked really good on the Sedin's banners because the majority of their career was played wearing their current uniforms with the agency font. So that works. But for players such as Stan Smeel, Trevor Linden, and Pavel Bure, it just does not look right. And Marcus Naslund too, of course. And speaking of retired players, hopefully when Roberto Luongo's contract ends, hopefully he will get his number 1 retired to the rafters of Rogers Arena as well, because when Roberto Luongo was a Vancouver Canuck, he was an excellent goaltender, and he even won a gold medal for Canada at the Winter Olympics that were actually in Vancouver 10 years ago in 2010. So hopefully in the next few years, Luongo will be getting his number retired as well, and rightfully so in my opinion. But finally, speaking of the Canucks, one more thing too. I noticed that this afternoon they were wearing their away white uniforms at home, and the Ducks wore their orange alternates in Vancouver today. And I must say, I'm a fan of Vancouver wearing white at home for even just one lousy game a year. I don't know about you viewers out there, but I really do enjoy seeing teams wear white at home once in a blue moon. And even if it's only once a year, I think it's a nice little change-up. I also thought it was nice that Carolina did it with their new away uniform for a game earlier this year as well. So, seeing Vancouver wear white at home and have the Ducks wear their orange thirds on the road today, I thought that was really cool to see for a change. And speaking of the Ducks, though, I must say their orange third jerseys, even though they're not my favorite jerseys, and I agree with everyone who says that if they're going to switch to orange full-time, they need to do something different. Or at least take the existing uniform and make some tweaks to it, which I do agree. But I must say, I could live with that jersey being their full-time home jersey as early as next season with a matching away. Because I'm sorry, their current home uniform especially looks terrible. Their away uniform has never been a problem for me, but I would rather see a matching away uniform for their orange third jersey than their current one. And I certainly won't miss the webbed D either. I don't even like it on the shoulders of their third jersey, to be honest. I think that as a logo it's okay, but it just does not look good on the shoulders of their orange third jersey. And I also don't like the amount of metallic khaki gold on those jerseys either. Gold and orange do not go together at all, in my opinion. But, is there anything else at this point that I want to discuss? I want to quickly touch base on the XFL. Truth is, it's been nice having something else to watch. And so far, I have not minded watching the XFL. But truth is, I actually noticed that the XFL has live streams of their games available on YouTube when they're on. And when I saw that, I actually was very impressed. I think that's a really good idea. And it's a great way to build exposure for the XFL too, as far as I'm concerned. But truth is, I'll let you in on a secret. I'm actually planning on doing an XFL video to talk about my thoughts on that league so far. In terms of whether I will do a video about the uniforms in the XFL, we'll see, because there's a lot of stuff out of what I talk about already that I'm way behind on. So, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes either, at least at this point in time. Now, finally, excuse me, Finally, what I want to discuss as well is the Stadium Series game last night. I hear there was a whole slew of issues that fans had getting in and out of Falcon Stadium in Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy for the outdoor game between the Kings and the Avalanche. And when I heard about some of those things, I thought that was really, really, really concerning and disappointing. And I don't blame fans for being frustrated. To me, that's a shame that an event that's usually always a great event had issues behind the scenes. That sucks. And hopefully the NHL will learn from that. Also, the uniforms that I saw yesterday, in my opinion, looked horrible. I thought they sucked. I mean, I tip my hat to the Colorado Avalanche for trying a design so extremely different than anything we've seen. But in my opinion, that uniform looked really bad. In fact, the blue on the top of their socks and their blue pants made them look like they were wearing capris. And that Kings uniform, where the hell is even a crown? There's not even a crown on there. It's just a big LA. And those silver chromed buckets that they wore. Okay, I know they're helmets. I'm sorry, folks. I thought they were a bloody eyesore. And the Avs helmets, too. I mean, this new trend of Adidas doing extreme helmet designs for the Stadium Series, I mean, I understand the Stadium Series is about trying new, creative, futuristic things. I get that. But there's a difference between doing new things and doing new things that suck and look horrible. Like, what the hell? My God, those uniforms were an eyesore. When I saw that game last night, I felt like I jumped in a bloody time machine that was programmed to send me to 1995. When the National Hockey League started doing the third jersey program that they've had to this day ever since. That's what last night's Stadium Series game felt like. And no, that is not a compliment. I thought that those uniforms were bad. Now, the only saving grace that they have, in my opinion, is the fact that they weren't monochromatic black on orange with no white like the Flyers had on their stupid Stadium Series uniforms they had last year, including those hideous, hideous helmets that they wore on top of all that. So, thankfully for the Avs and the Kings, their uniforms are nowhere near as bad, in my opinion, as what the Flyers wore a year ago. And as I say that, I still think that the uniforms we saw yesterday were also horrible. I mean, I understand that the Stadium Series is about trying new things. But what a half blue, half burgundy jersey with a big A mountain thing on the front? My God, that looked bad. And even the Kings jersey. I mean, could they not have even just put their logo on the front? If they would have just put their regular crest on the front, I could have lived with that uniform. But that big LA on the front, I'm sorry, folks, it looked bad. I mean, I thought the stenciled font on their jerseys was okay. I mean, the shiny chrome helmets for one or two lousy games, because they are going to wear it for one more game at the Staples Center coming up. That was certainly a neat experiment, but not something I want to see teams doing anymore. And Colorado is another example of what happens when you do too much. I mean, the helmets that the Penguins and the Flyers had last year were bad. Colorado's, in my opinion, is the nicest helmet that I've seen with a big, oversized design on it. It's the first one that I've seen that, alright, even though it's terrible, it's not as bad. But when I saw that it was only on one half of the helmet and the other half was a player's number on it, I was like, okay, forget it. I take this back. Another one. The only difference is that I do think this year's Stadium Series outlandish helmet design for the Avalanche was a little bit better by the skin of its teeth than the Penguins. And obviously both of those are sadly even a little better than the Flyers one. And that Flyers uniform last year was just a write-off. I still can't believe the Flyers wore such an awful uniform for that game. No wonder they didn't wear it for even an additional game at their home arena. I mean, my God, what a stupid idea that was. If it had white on it, it could actually be a great third jersey. But no, black on orange with no white. What a stupid decision that was. And their uniforms that the Kings and the Avalanche wore last night were also bad. But thankfully, they weren't as bad as the Flyers. So I'll give them that. But I still think they sucked. And you know what else pisses me off too? The logo from the jersey that the Avalanche wore last night is actually a pretty cool looking logo. They could have done a cool jersey. But no, they insisted on pushing the limits and boundaries of what a jersey can be. I mean, is that creative? Yeah. But does it look good? As far as I'm concerned, no, not at all. But anyways, you guys, I'm going to call it a wrap on this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this week's weekly roundup from me. And until my next one in a week from now, as always, take care. And of course, as always, bye for now. And until next Sunday when I will round up once again, see you next time. And once again, bye for now.